Planning a trip to Barcelona? Before you click book now on that attraction or start cramming every Gaudi site into one day, let's talk about the 10 biggest mistakes that people make when they're planning their Barcelona itinerary. I've been guiding travelers and helping them plan their itineraries here in Barcelona for over a decade now, and I've seen the same 10 mistakes over and over again. These can totally derail your trip, leaving you overwhelmed, having you miss out on those must-see attractions, or just feeling like you didn't make the most out of your time here. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I tell my trip planning clients so you can skip the stress and make the most out of your time here in Barcelona. The first big mistake that I see is overpacking the itinerary. And I get it. With everything that you have to do in Barcelona, you don't want to miss out. You want to see the Sagrada Familia, you want to get over to the Park Güell, the Casa Batlló, you want to explore the Gothic Quarter, get over to the beach, take a day trip out to Montserrat. All of these things are going to be amazing experiences. But if you try to pack everything into one day, you're going to rush, you're not going to actually see them, and then is it really going to be such a great experience? I remember the first time that I went over to Paris and I thought that I was going to see everything in that one trip, and we tried to rush so much and pack everything in that I don't really feel like I saw all of it. We ended up doing the Louvre in about an hour, which is definitely not enough, and I feel like I just remember pieces of this trip, but not everything. So one of the things that I highly recommend when planning out an itinerary is not trying to do 5 things in one day, but really picking 2, maybe 3 things, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then planning around that. Booking in time so that you can get around, really enjoy those, but then also stop for a coffee, enjoy a longer lunch, really see other parts of the city instead of just missing out on things that you think you really want to see just so you can tick off a list. The other big mistake that I see, and one that I hear about over and over again, despite the number of times that I can say it in a video, is not pre-booking those major attractions. This is one of the biggest things that you need to know when you're coming to a city, especially like Barcelona, with so much interest in seeing some of the big sites. Just as a general rule, all of the Gaudi attractions should probably be booked ahead of time, especially that Sagrada Familia and the Park Güell. Both the Sagrada Familia and the Park Güell cannot be bought on site, and you need to buy them online. I even heard today of somebody that showed up at the Park Güell after making it all the way up the hill and getting there just to find out that there were no tickets available. All of that information is available online, and basically the day of, you're not going to be able to book. Now other places like that Casa Batlló, Casa Milà, you do have a little bit more leeway, and usually just by booking online, it actually saves you money than going over to the door. But one of the worst things that can happen, and especially if you have a very little amount of time in Barcelona, is showing up to a place, not having those entrances, and then missing out on it altogether. Now in the low season, you always do have a little bit more time in terms of the days before going that you can book, but especially in that high season, start to look almost a month in advance. Plan those big events as your major attraction, and then really have all of the other things that you're interested in seeing but maybe don't need to book ahead, so you can fill those into the other spaces in your itinerary. And if you do make those pre-bookings, remember not to ignore those entry times. Everybody always wants to find those skip the line tickets so they can get over to their favorite sites, but they don't always pay attention to the amount of time that you have to get in. Usually places like the Sagrada Familia have a 15-minute window where you can get in. Park Güell is at 30. But this is not just those 2 major sites, it's basically any of those tickets. There's really no lines anymore. All of it is an entrance time that gives you a little bit of a buffer window so that you can get in. But if you get there after that window, many of these places are pretty strict, especially that Sagrada Familia and that Park Güell. Other places might give you a little bit more leeway if you have that ticket and you can show them. But remember, these time tickets are not just you can get in at any point of the day. They really do like to stick to those windows. So when you're planning your itinerary, planning where you're going to be, make sure that you get there on time. It's always better to show up maybe even a little bit earlier. They might not let you in that early, but it might be better to get there a little bit earlier than to get there too late and miss out altogether. Now, keeping with those timings for the major attractions, if you do plan on organizing multiple activities within the same day, remember to leave a buffer time between each of those activities. If you plan on doing something like visiting the Park Güell in the morning and then going to the Picasso Museum afterwards, make sure you're not planning that about an hour and a half after the Park Güell. For one, you're not going to have enough time to see the Park Güell, and the Park Güell's not in the center of the city. Getting back over to the Picasso Museum is going to require its time. So whether you go by public transportation or take a taxi directly there, you still need that time to get over to the Picasso Museum, and you won't have enjoyed that Park Güell because you'll have run through it. So make sure that you look ahead of time as to what those attractions require in terms of seeing them and really getting a good idea of them, but also that time that'll let you get over to that new attraction so that you can enjoy it. If you're looking for an idea of the time that you should spend in each of the major attractions in Barcelona, I've just released the Patrick Guide to Barcelona, my guidebook with all the information you're going to need ahead of your trip. Not only does it let you know what those big attractions are, the time that you'll need to spend there, but it gets you prepped and ready to go so that you'll have an amazing time in Barcelona. It also comes with a complete Google Maps to see some of my best recommendations for where to eat and where to go outside of seeing those attractions. Now, timings here in Barcelona and Spain as a whole work a little bit different than where you're coming from, where we have some of the latest lunch and dinner times in the entire world. A lot of times those lunches aren't going to start until 2 p.m. and dinner at 9 or 10 p.m. as well. And so one of the biggest mistakes that I see are people not calculating when those restaurants are going to be open so that they can enjoy an amazing meal. Keep in mind that a lot of times some of the best restaurants are going to start their service for lunch around 1, maybe 1:30, and that might run to about 4 or 4:30. Those restaurants might close and not open again until 7 p.m. So having an early dinner at 5 or 6 is not something that you're going to be able to do at all of those restaurants. Now, obviously, there are some restaurants that don't close the kitchen, but for some of the best restaurants, you're going to want to remember to build your times into what you're doing and what you're seeing around those meal times as well. The same thing can go for some shops where they will close down a lot of times between that 3 to 5 p.m. time during the middle of the afternoon, where a lot of those shops won't be open until later in the day. Now, one of the things that you can do when you're wanting to know if those stores or if those restaurants are open is you can go directly to their websites to make sure. Google is up to date a lot of times, but if it's a holiday or something special going on, those might change. Sometimes, for a little bit of an extra tip, the best thing that you can do is get onto the Instagram account for the store or for the restaurant, and they might have a better up-to-date idea of their schedule. Now, another big mistake that can really affect the entirety of your trip is staying in the wrong area. I get it. A lot of times staying in the very center, the prices start to increase and Barcelona is becoming more and more expensive. But there are still plenty of different options of hotels that you can stay at that aren't going to break the bank and keep you in the center of the city so that you can get to all of the places. If not, you're going to have to start commuting, and getting around becomes much more difficult. Those timings that we've been talking about become much more of a concern the entire time. My recommendation is always to stay kind of in a central corridor of Barcelona, which lets you easily get to each of those major attractions, best restaurants and everything by walking, public transportation, or even a quick taxi if you need to. That central corridor is going to be the Gothic Quarter and the Old City, the Eixample and Gracia. I have an entire video all about where to stay so you can make the most out of your time when you're in Barcelona, because it's one of the big things that affects the entirety of your itinerary. Check out that video because not only does it break down each of the different neighborhoods with some hotel options, but it also gives you the vibes of the neighborhood, the pros and cons, and lets you pick the best neighborhood for your type of trip. Now, another big mistake that I see is booking those major attractions on either your arrival or your departure day. Now, there's really two main reasons why this can become a big problem when we're creating your Barcelona itinerary. And the first is pretty obvious. What if there's a flight delay? If you have something big booked, maybe a big attraction like the Sagrada Familia, or even a day trip, a tour, something like this, you could get in late and miss out entirely on that. A lot of times you're not able to get a refund on those tickets and you'll miss out on the entire experience. But the other one that not many people think about is what if you're jet lagged? A lot of times when people get in, they want to pack everything in, hit the ground running, and get going. But you might not be able to have that experience in the same way because you're so tired. And I see it all the time when people want to go right away and see something. You might not be in that same mood as much as you're excited to be there. Sometimes you don't get any sleep on the plane and you're super tired. What I would always recommend is going a little bit lighter on that first day, not booking any of those major attractions or things that you're really excited to see, waiting until that next day, maybe you can catch up a little bit. That first day can be a little bit more chill, walking around in some of the areas, getting your bearings, stopping, having a drink, a meal, letting yourself rest, and then the next day, starting big. Now, another big itinerary killer is wasting your time at the tourist trap zones. And these are going to be some of those places that are by big attractions or major tourist hubs. Now, I'm going to use La Rambla as my example, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. And as I tell everybody that comes into Barcelona, you should definitely get over and see La Rambla for its importance to the city, but you shouldn't spend all of your time there. And one of the things that I see over and over again that I maybe will never understand are all of the people that think once they see this area, they want to sit down and have a drink or have something to eat over there. One of the best things about Barcelona is its gastronomic culture that really gets you into the local vibe, the local culture as well. And so getting away from La Rambla, getting away from those big tourist hubs will have you eating so much better, and a lot of times for a much better price to quality ratio. Remember, all you need to do is a little bit more of research of where you can go over and eat at better places. You're gonna have a much better experience than staying at those tourist traps. And if your question is, Patrick, how do I know if it's a tourist trap? I have an entire video dedicated to the red flags that'll alert you to know if it's a tourist trap and if you should be spending more of your time elsewhere. The other thing that can really make or break your trip is how you plan on getting around the city. And what's interesting is that I see two different mistakes that are really the complete opposite in how people tackle their itineraries. One is thinking that you can walk all over Barcelona. While it is a pretty compact city and most of the places are easily within walking distance, and I recommend walking to really get to see a city and understanding it, there are some places that are going to be a little bit further. And this is coming from somebody who walks up to 20 kilometers or more a day. It can get really tiring. And you're not going to be able to explore or experience everything you want to if you're walking so much. You might want to mix it up, maybe grab public transportation, a taxi for some of those further places, especially like the Park Güell. I always recommend just taking a taxi right there and making it a lot easier on your feet. The other thing that I see are people relying either too much on those taxis or thinking other modes of transportation are going to be better than walking. Like I already mentioned before, I think walking is the best thing, but a lot of times what I see are people trying to jump on that hop on, hop off bus and use it as a way of getting around the city. While it is a good tool for somebody who wants to get a bird's eye view of the city and really see how it all connects, I wouldn't recommend using it like using the metro. A lot of people think that if they buy that ticket for 1 or 2 days, they can get to all of the different attractions by using that bus. Now, yes, it does stop at most of the big attractions, but especially in the summer, especially in high season, those lines get extremely long. So you're going to be waiting a lot longer outside for that bus, and you might get to your timed entrances a little late. It's much better to maybe use that one time, but get a Metro card, get around. I have a full video all about which Metro cards you can use in Barcelona that are best for you. Another big itinerary mistake is how you plan your day trips. Now, normally when people are coming in, they have about 3, maybe 4 days in the city. I personally wouldn't plan for a day trip unless you have at least 4 days in Barcelona. Remember that you've come to visit Barcelona. You haven't come to use Barcelona as a hub to run off to all these other places. Or at least I think that's what you planned. But the idea of doing all of these different day trips in such a short amount of time, you won't really see the city of Barcelona. It won't give you time to explore everything that Barcelona has to offer, and you'll be running around trying to get to all sorts of different places. If you have 1 or 2 days in Barcelona, plan Barcelona and stay there. If you do have some time to make a day trip, make sure that you're looking up the different types of day trips. Some of the best day trips that you can have from Barcelona are Montserrat, Girona, Tarragona. But really look those up before you go so you can get an idea for what kind of trip that you want, so you can balance that out with what you can see in the city of Barcelona and then what you can see when you take that day trip. And one of the other big things that I always think are if you're planning one of those big day trips that's going to be 13 hours, keep in mind that the next day you're probably going to be pretty tired. So make sure that you have a pretty easy morning planned the day after. These are just the top tips that I give my guests when helping them plan their Barcelona itineraries. But if you want everything that I know from 15 years of living in Barcelona and 10 years helping people experiencing the best out of the city, all in one easy-to-use digital guide, get the Patrick Guide to Barcelona down below. It's filled with interactive maps, restaurant recommendations, and all of my favorite hidden gems in the city to help you experience Barcelona like a local.